Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let's discuss about autonomic nervous system and see whether there are 21 spheres of Tantra Vidya or divine mathematics there. Brahmank is 22 by 21. Is autonomic nervous system representing 21 and 22? Now, the 21 center reptilian brain and Tantra is very clear here. When I say I have to in divine mathematics, explain things very clearly. In these three lines you are going to see and the picture you can see, there is a brain stem which contains 4 brain nuclei of 4 pairs of cranial nerves. I am very clear. There are 12 cranial nerves, they are pairs, both on each side there are 12, out of which 4 are parasympathetic in nature. That's it. Then sympathetic system arises from 14 spinal segments, T1 to L2, thoracic 12, lumbar 2, 14 segments which give you rise to preganglion fibers of the sympathetic paravertebral chain. 4 plus 14 is 18. Then sacral parasympathetic arising from 3 spinal segments as such. Both sympathetic and sacral parasympathetic arise from lateral horn cells of the spinal cord, whereas the 4 also arise from the same thing within the brainstem, which contains the midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata, and they are third, 7, 9 and 10 nerves as such. So 4 plus 14 plus 3 is 21 is as simple as that. This is something which surprised me when I started making this particular thing. I have never spoken about 21 parts of the reptilian brain and Tantra in this form, and that exactly is Satchakra Nirupana talking about. It talks about the 6 chakras, not of 7 chakras. And 6 chakras are right up to the base brain stem or Ajna chakra, from Mooladhara to Swadhisthana to Nabhi to Anhata to Vishuddhi to this. These are the 6 chakras which constitute the reptilian brain, which is responsible for homeostasis of perfect health as such, which centers on autonomic nervous system as well as endocrine system and internal thing by and large. I think this is what makes a perfect human being live a perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy life. And I make it very clear, if this system is good, you are going to be a perfect person as far as health, wealth is concerned. There is no doubt about that. Now they come to the question of the functions of 21 centers of Tantra Vidya. As I say, autonomic nervous system is the one which is responsible. What are their functions? Parasympathetic system is to rest, digest and conserve energy. Very clear. Parasympathetic, whether it's sacral parasympathetic or cranial parasympathetic, all their function is to help you digest, rest and conserve energy to be used at a later date. This is what is required primarily to have the energy which centers around ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and its group of ADP, ANP, etc. That's it. Sympathetic system is the mobilization of vital energy in case of emergency. And this is where I talk about Tantra Vidya is nothing but sympathetic nervous system being taken into function and increase the energy level and make you very effective. And the whole idea of Tantra Vidya is to make you perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and psychologically perfect. If you want to be intelligent person, you want to be intuitive person, you want to be a psychologically brilliant person, you want to be a mathematician, and all said and done, you need an extra energy for walking, talking, encyclopedia otherwise. Without that adrenaline, noradrenaline, catecholamines and all the hormones like Vishuddhi hormones, thyroid hormones or dopamine or other hormones, they all center around ATP and energy as such. So all Kundalini syndrome or Akhand Vidya or Akhand Yoga by and large is possible only when sympathetic system is on. Without that it is not possible. And I make it very, but at the same time, when this is working within a system, a mobilized system, an automatically controlled system, then perfect is having. If it is too much of adrenaline, which is not being controlled, leading to tachycardia and increased blood pressure, sympathetic system overthinking, overexcitation, ADHD, etc., all the psychological problems are only with the sympathetic system. To keep the sympathetic system controlled, and also parasympathetic, and that oneness is required, and that is what I am talking about, autonomic system or function, integrated homeostasis. So I think autonomic nervous system makes sure that we live a perfect life. You should be in a position to enjoy food, digest food, conserve food, preserve the energy, and use the energy for fantastic work, to be super intelligent person, very intuitive person, and become one with the divine consciousness. This is what Tantra is all about. Tantra means body. Tan is the body, the language of the body with its anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, psychology, all of it Tantra Vidya. It is nothing to do with anything other than that. And its force is always sympathetic, adrenaline as such. Catechol means as such. That's it. So as I've written down, the perfect physical health, emotional stability, intelligent, intuitive education, enlightenment comes up only when this is balance of sympathetic and parasympathetic both. Producing energy is one important, preserving energy is important, and utilizing energy within the system will give you perfect homeostasis. If it is disturbed, if production is less, you could have a problem. Production is more, is also a problem. Maintain this, and that is autonomic nervous system all about. And maybe I am able to do the kind of thing which others have failed. But I have no problem whatsoever. It is only because of my understanding of Tantra Vidya, and these 21 chakras or centers of consciousness within the autonomic system, which is functioning in an integrated way, has helped me. But when it comes to the question of 22 level, I make it very, very clear. These systems are at the bottom functional level, but they have a control center over it, which is there in pituitary or hypothalamus or insular cortex by and large, and also up to the three outer layers. There is the upper part, which is the 22nd part, which I am talking about. Unless until that is vibrant, this 20 cannot be perfect. But the 22nd level should be within the brain itself, not outside the brain. This is where Akhand Yoga is talking about 8 stages of Patanjali Yoga Sutra plus Chakra Yoga, Kundalini, and the internalization of Kundalini within the ventricles of the brain. Only then you can have integrated consciousness to be in tune with self and in tune with higher consciousness. And that is the myth. And this is something for the first time I'm talking about, and I think it's very good for everybody to know. If you really want to go and understand Kundalini Yoga or Akhand Yoga, and based on Patanjali Yoga Sutra, then you got to be very, very intelligent to experience that soul within your body. And this soul gives you the 22nd level within the body as well beyond the body. And as a result, a human being can be a perfect human being till such time we are only a reflection of the monkey brain, which is monkey brain. When I say monkey brain, it is said that human brain evolved from monkeys. I agree. But we continue to be like monkeys, doing all the things which monkey do, but we are not able to see the things which the world should have seen, the human being should have seen, or the low pollen can do. Maybe tomorrow's video is going to be IQ. Can there be IQ of 1000 plus ever imagined in the world? You're going to see that tomorrow. Now there comes to question of stabilizing things as such. This standard classification is presented, which is the 6 parts only, and that is what I am talking about. But which I have been telling you, there are 7 levels of integrated human nervous system, which shows the higher integrations in insular cortex, hypothalamus, pituitary on top over the 6 centers, and below as the pacemakers in the heart, digestive system and uterus. These two put together up and down make you perfect, and that is the 7th. You can, evolution is towards high, involution is toward both. Involution and evolution should be as the 7th, one up, one down, which makes the 22 level. Spiral of 22 by 21, when moving up is higher self, coming into the body is the lower self, and I think that explains things very clearly. Now the come to question of how the general autonomic nervous system starts. As I told you, zygote formed with the union of sperm and ovum is fused, and then 9 days it gets implanted in the uterus, and the first shape which takes is the trilaminar of 3 ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm, you can see, and the whole process starts on the 19th day, 20th day, and this, and by 22nd day you have come to that particular stage of forming a neural crest, and the neural crest, when it migrates, becomes the autonomic ganglia for autonomic nervous system. It is found in sympathetic as well as parasympathetic both. They are migrated central system independently but function exactly like a nervous system. Now the consequences, sensory pathway, I say sympathetic, parasympathetic come along with the other system from every part of the body. When I say sympathetic system is from top of the head to the bottom in all the blood vessels, sympathetic fibers go along the vessel, and they are the first defense mechanism in case of injury. They are the first go for vasoconstriction. As a result, bleeding stops. There is a proof for that, and because it saves us, that's what called sympathetic, is sympathizing with us. That's why sympathetic system is called sympathized. And information can pass through everything, through all the motor, and this is common throughout, and that makes you awareness. That's why I keep saying in yoga, never concentrate with eyes closed and don't block your senses. Keep all senses open, and then only you can perceive the things very clearly. The sensory should be open, motor should be open, in between should be open, and all the 7 centers I said, the 7th part within the body is actually autonomic nervous system or sympathetic nervous system, which inside gives you intuition within the body, and that is more important than the sensory and motor component alone. This centralized autonomic nervous system is involuntary, only that will give you the perfect homeostasis. Once that is understood, I think only then. But that all the fibers of the autonomic nervous system from lateral horns, posterior is sensory, anterior is motor, but lateral horn is autonomic. They all come through the interior process and go to the rest of the body as such. Sympathetic is throughout the body, whereas parasympathetic is within the inside body, chest and abdomen, etc. Then efferent is moving, goes, and I make it clear, motor component is with skeletal muscles, but here it is the smooth muscles, cardiac muscles and gland which come to the play a role. As I told, lateral horn cells from the spinal cord, this general visceral efferent motor system is there in the brain stem. These are the fibers, and this is how it goes. The system works step by step. Now this is sympathetic system. I have explained in the last one, but I am showing it again to just make sure that there are 14 segments T1 to L2, you can see in the picture, from which 28 preganglion nerves are arising, 28, and they form two chains of left and right paravertebral, each having 22 by 22, and then they are united at the bottom in ganglion impar or coccygeal ganglion, which is Muladhara chakra. So 22 plus 22 plus 1 is a 45, and divided by 20 is exactly what is Divyank all about. It is not coincidence, because the divine nature has to be a perfect. So I think Divyank in this particular thing speaks volumes, and I think it's been clear in the yesterday's one. Here you see Divyank beautifully, perfectly. I don't think anybody has ever spoken about it. Now to come to the question of autonomic nervous system, and I make it very clear, central autonomic networking is over the brain stem. This is where higher chakras come to the play. They work together. As I told you, autonomic nervous system, the cranial parasympathetic starts from the brain stem, and sympathetic from thoracolumbar, and sacral parasympathetic from sacral part. But these three are under control of over with the pituitary and hypothalamus, and then thalamus, and then finally go to insular cortex as the upper thing control. But these are the only energy is responsible for making three outer layers, the neocortex being perfect, provided it is under check. If it is not under check, all psychological problem comes only when this energy is too much. Instead of integrating the three layers and making you a perfect human being, when you are not able to control, you have the problems of psychosomatic disorders. And that is what I say. You call it dopamine excess, you call this excess or that excess. It's too much of energy, more than you know how to handle. And from my experience, I have no problem, because I have learnt a perfect education from childhood till today. And only when you have been integrating all the 64 parts of the brain with the 64 arts and sciences, only then you can imagine to be integrated, otherwise not possible. Being expert in one field gives you advantage to make money, name, fame, but does not give you advantage to control over psychosomatic. All geniuses who cannot talk of the 64 arts and sciences, they land up in mental asylum, because they are talking truth. The world does not know that their level is much higher in that field, but you have the particular standard of education and performance in 64 arts independently. But these people can do much more in one field, but not in all the 64. When you do all the 64, then only your central autonomic nervous system is going to tell you to make your perfect walking, talking encyclopedia. Till such time, you only become like a monkey, thinking, dancing, irritating, infatuating brain, and that's it. Now come to the before the insular cortex is the hypothalamus, and this is the centers which are important. This is where Vigyan chakra is all about. Pragyan, Sasra, I have spoken about it. Now you have Pragyan chakra, this is there. And in this picture, I am showing it very clearly. The anterior part of the hypothalamus is parasympathetic in nature, and the posterior is sympathetic in nature. Why did nature produce sympathetic on the back side and parasympathetic in front is very clear, because sympathetic system is close to the thalamus as such. All the fibers ascending powers which carry information pass through the posterior part and then go to thalamus. So connections are much closer there. It has to be taken immediate action. It cannot wait for a long time. So all the sympathetic actions are very quick and fast reactions, but they should be under check. Though that's why they are close. But parasympathetic is slow. They are in front. They can function very well, but only when this system is working very well. Then you only know how to rest, digest, conserve energy, and be effective later within the balance, not with excitation, ADH, and psychosomatic disorders. This is where a balance within the hypothalamus and higher becomes very important for psychiatric patients, because they are not able to control. So our psychiatrists and counsel by and large are giving them drugs to make them vegetables. They are not teaching them that these are the students These are the people who need to be highly educated in all the 64 arts. They are capable. But when before they learn that, you put that, and that knowledge is not available, that is exactly the knowledge which I am sharing for the world, because that is what is going to make everybody super intelligent and not make anybody suffer from psychosomatic disorders. Then comes to the cranial parasympathetic, which is on top. Now there are four nerves. The first nerve in the midbrain is oculomotor nerve. This is one is responsible for constriction of the eyes when the light is bright. Is a first defense mechanism, and both neurohormone required for parasympathetic is acetylcholine only. Preganglion and postganglion have only acetylcholine, you can see, and constriction is required to save us from bright light. Body itself can do, we don't have to close eyes. Then that is in midbrain. Pons has got facial nerve as such, which is responsible for perfusion of the nose and mouth, digestion, saliva, etc. Then your medulla oblongata has got two centers, glossopharyngeal and vagus. These are the responsible for other things, and these are the four things which make us use the consciousness to preserve, rest, digest, and be perfect. And these are the four things which are important, and they give you all the energy which is required. Now the question of oculomotor, the first cranial nerve is the third one, and the reflex is constriction. And I think it's a beautiful part designed by me, and I think this is perfect from every angle. How pupillary reflex and accommodation work, and how this particular ganglion has got muscular, motor component and autonomic both. I think that makes this perfect. And Edgar Westphal nucleus is for involuntary, whereas oculomotor is for motor, for bringing both eyes together to bring that, and that is very important for self-realization within, and that exactly was done to me when I was initiated into to concentrate between the eyes. You can see both eyes together, both things are brought. So that was bringing cranial parasympathetic third niche very, very active. And I think that was the starting point for me to realize that Kundalini has come right up to that. That is beyond 6 chakras of Tantra itself. Now, sympathetic system dilates it. Parasympathetic constricts it. Then come to the facial glossopharyngeal. It can make the digestion food much better, even smell better. Facial nerve is for good taste, and I will not go into detail. I have already explained. This is the second one, seventh nerve. Then sympathetic stimulation increases digestion problems. If it is parasympathetic, it is good for digestion. If it is sympathetic, digestion is defective. And I think we'll leave it at that. Then heart. When it is parasympathetic, heart rate is perfect, and that is ideal, 72. We maintain. But when sympathetic is on, your heart rate is going to increase, and that's where all the problems start up. So sympathetic should not be allowed to go for tachycardia. And once tachycardia is under check and we keep it to 72, if that is the yoga which teaches you, it can be done. I can tell you, whenever there is over activation of the sympathetic system, all you need to do according to Yoga Shastra is take deep breaths. As and you take as many deep breaths as possible, it is the parasympathetic which is stimulated and sympathetic is cut. This is one of the easiest way. And that's how I've learned to control sympathetic system and keep it checked to 72 and have no problem whatsoever. Now come to the sacral parasympathetic system, which is the one which is absolutely essential here. I've started with 4 nerves in the brain stem as the first part. Sympathetic, I told you, from 14 segments, 18 have been done. Now come to the sacral parasympathetic. We are going to see that in detail and make it 21 levels, and already spoken about 22 levels. Now see this picture, sacral parasympathetic is again neurotransmitter is same as a acetylcholine. Now this is a chakra which is the Swadhisthana chakra, and there are 5 sacral vertebrae which are responsible: S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, you can see in the bottom, from which 3 nerves are coming, which are S2, S3 and S4 only. They don't come from S1 and S5. Similarly, all the 12 thoracic come for sympathetic, and L1 and L2 only. L3, L4, L5, there are no lateral horns and no autonomic nerves. That's it. Here 3. But they further get divided into supply 5 chains and 5 organs as such. I think that again is according to Divyank. So these 3 divided into 5 and going to uterus, vagina, penis, urinary, kidneys, etc., and also the last part of the digestive system. They are all interconnected. As a result, this completes it. But you can see the picture of the spinal cord, and I've shown lateral horn cells. From these 3 only come, not the other 2. I think once you understand that, I can tell you, you can have a perfectly healthy life. For that matter, this centers around the lower consciousness, apana prana, which is required, which is not only reproduction, it's the entire thing to eliminate all the defects from inside. So peristaltic movements start in the stomach and should go on, and food should be thrown out, urine should be thrown out, everything is done only by this system. So that way sympathetic predominance is for ejaculation and expulsion as such, but parasympathetic will retain it, and that is the most beautiful part. Sympathetic and parasympathetic work together to maintain equilibrium, and each one has a difference that should be played only when essential. When it's not essential, it should not. That's the reason I keep saying, never use anything which can block the system, whether it's a painkiller, whether it's a fever, whether it's a drug, alcohol, or anything which can reduce the sensitivity of the system is going to make you sick. For all the psychosomatic disorders, please, for heaven's sake, let them learn Akhand Yoga and use energy in a very intelligent way, which they can do it, and not suffer from this. And don't make them vegetable by giving them drugs and killing them once for all. And I'm very, very clear. Maybe whole objective of my 30 years of research as such is only that genius people are super intelligent, but they're much beyond the common man, and common man is not able to tolerate. They take them to psychiatric, and psychiatric put drugs, because all these people are under control of the family. It's the family takes a bad decision, psychiatrists take the bad decision, society takes the decision. So genius has made that. That way I'm very happy that I have never allowed anybody as a doctor to give me tranquilizer. It is a thing. I have taken a decision I will do. I would rather live alone and not take anything, not listen to anybody. But what I have done is amazing work. And I know all the genius people are amazing, but they are not allowed because they don't have the confidence, and the society as well does not permit. That's why all the knowledge which we have, what is a copycat, everybody goes by that. And as a result, there is a confusion all over which needs to be rectified, and that is what I am trying to do. I think leaving at that is wonderful. Now this is a system of comparison which I have given with the sympathetic person. You can read it, comparison slowly. What are the difference? I have already spoken about it, and other things as such I have already spoken in both. And then these are the different functions which are there. You can read it as you move on. Then this is the neurotransmitters and receptors I have already spoken. This is represented as such. Now this is parasympathetic energy conservation. This is how it works, and sympathetic how it works, and this is how they balance the whole system. And this is where you need a balance. Rest and digest is one part, and fight and flight is a sympathetic other part. Once this balance is together, only there can be homeostasis. Otherwise it is not at all possible. And then finally the whole thing is put into this. Ida Pingla Sushmana Nadi is nothing but left and right paravertebral chain of the sympathetic system. Muladhara is bottom where it is, and how different things go. and everything is represented here too. But here I have made it very clear, one's soul is inside within the ventricles over the reptilian brain. Only then you become a perfect human being. Till such time you don't. And that was the central force which I said. Auto realization, self realization is the first beginning of your becoming a human being. Till such time we are like perfect monkeys. 97% of the DNA of monkeys and human beings same. But the three things which makes it different would come only when you have self-realization, soul within, and then you move on. But then utilizing that with 64 arts and sciences is more important than being expert in one field. I have been seeing since childhood. Be expert in your field. But when expert in field, you cannot be perfect unless until you come to Divyank level. Unless until all the 64 things come, if you're going to be expert, that will be might be make money, name, and think you are slightly better than others, but you are not integrated. For integration, 64 required, and that is going to be the focus for the next video of IQ, which could be 1000 IQ. Can you imagine all these geniuses? 160, 180, and maximum 268. And but talking about 1000 is amazing. But why it happened, we will discuss in the next video. Thank you very